Good morning and welcome to the WSJM Morning Show here.
You like my shirt?
Oh, yeah.
Love it. That was a good one. Did you make that up? Are they for sale?
Yeah, no.
Here, wait. Here, stay standing. Stay standing.
That's-
Here, look at that.
One unique one
Let's
that's
see.
on here.
Here, hang on 1 second. There we go.
You know, the way I look at it is like,
What is that shirt, Ken Kosminski?
well, it's
Okay, there we go.
I gotta adjust these things. Sir.
All right.
Good luck on the
Good morning and welcome to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg, and we've got Ken Kosminski is here from the Buck. Thanks for joining us. Special guest this morning.
Oh, it's good to be here, actually. So the shirt, by the way, the pause piece is because of the parking pause, and you know it seems like I've turned into the parking czar discussion person lately. I think I've had thousands of conversations about parking. So,
I know.
and I'm happy to have them too. So
Well,
I'll have more with you.
Well, thanks for coming in and joining us to have that conversation. And I know, I mean, my sense is you don't like to put yourself out there. You're business. You want to do business. You're there to do your business, and you don't want to get involved in those things that would detract from the business. This is a big one.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why. I pretty much have gotten myself really involved with this one.
Whether you want to or not.
Whether
right?
I want to or not.
Yeah.
But I got to go back to the pause thing. You know, if
I love that.
If I was in high school and I was caught smoking in the bathroom with the principal, and you know, and he came in and pulled me out, and he would say, "You know what, Ken? I really think you need to take a pause." You know, would that happen? Would they do that? Would they actually pause you, or would they tell you that you're suspended?
Right. You get suspended.
I mean, from my perspective, the program is suspended, and it's suspended because of the ADA compliance issue. So, I mean, this whole thing was put in wrong to begin with, if you will, especially when it comes to ADA and taking care of our handicapped and disabled people.
Yeah.
So it's really, to me, it's really not a pause. They're on suspension until they get it right, and now's our opportunity to figure out where do we go from here? Does this thing get re-implemented in a different way, or does it just get taken out altogether?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've been working with a lot of businesses, a bunch of community members. We've got groups together. Poor Emily, she's sick of talking to me downtown. So we've had a lot of discussions, you know, with the commissioners and with the city about this. In fact, last night I was at a great meeting, which we got this wonderful opportunity with this development project coming into the community that wants to come and set up this
the Marquette
$55 million investment.
Yeah.
And we're, you know, and now we got this black cloud over us, this parking cloud, if you will, that just for the small amount of revenue that it would have generated to begin with, the huge amount of time it's taken from everybody, including city management, including public works departments, including, you know, all the businesses now having to take our focus off our business and try to figure out how to cut costs. So, I mean, our revenues were down 38% across the board from May 15th all the way to June 10th when it was shut down.
38%.
So look at the
That's
radio
real
station,
money.
Midwest Family Broadcasting. All of a sudden, overnight, 40% of your revenues go away.
No,
what do you do?
We go away.
You go away, and you have to cut costs. And so it's really hard for me because when you look at it from a business perspective, it seems like the city's not looking at it from a business perspective. They're looking at it as we want to increase turnover and have cars turn over more frequently to support the businesses. And if that's what the original plan was, and I think you had Mike in earlier this week,
Mike
right?
Sorolla, Commissioner Mike Sorolla. Yep.
The reality is that's not happening. And, you know, so let's stop, you know, and unfortunately it took a lot of pressure to get people to stop and realize that this thing was not set up right to begin with. And now it's time for us to take a pause.
I love your
It's
T-shirt.
like commercial break, right?
I love your T-shirt. We're gonna.
Are you selling those at the restaurant?
We're talking with
No,
Ken
whatever.
Kosminski here. He's from the Buck. He's also become the voice of the folks who are wanting to take a look and maybe suspend the parking enforcement, the paid parking enforcement in downtown St. Joseph. We're going to talk with him more in just a few moments. We've got to get away from our ABC News here, get into our local news, and we'll have that conversation with him in just a moment right here on WSJM.
That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
It's 7:05. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's Friday, and because it's Friday, we've got who knows what could happen here on the show. It's June 27th. I'm here. Brett Witkowski is here filling in for Mike Weibel. And then we also have, hey, turn off your thing.
I do that.
Turn it off.
That's my problem.
This kid, you give him a smart device and he gets dumb. I don't know what
need
happens.
My whatever you call this.
Your Kindle?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, what Brett is reminding us about is we have a video live stream and it's available on your WSJM Smart app,
Great
which he is turning on right now. And anyway, so also in the studio, we have a special guest this hour. Ken Kosminski is here from the Buck. And if you're not on the video live stream, you're already missing a lot because he had a special t-shirt. Did you make up that t-shirt? Did you have that specially printed?
I did, actually. And
what does your t-shirt say for those who are not yet on the video live stream?
It says I'm taking a pause.
Why does it say I'm taking a pause? What for those who might have been on Mars? What does taking a pause mean?
Well, taking a pause means that just like the parking is downtown, taking a pause. So
Yeah.
the other option was I was going to cross that out right suspended underneath there. But,
Oh, yeah.
But that,
Oh, there's time.
You've got options.
So we do have an opportunity. We've got parking on in St. Joe is not alive right now.
The paid parking enforcement has been paused or suspended or whatever you want to call it.
That means you come down and take care of the businesses that are there and come park for free. And we love to have you. And so this has obviously been something that, as we were just talking about, we got this incredible development project going on in our fingertips if we could get it to move forward with this whole Marquette. And in the meantime, we're spending all of our time talking about parking and trying to readjust. And incrementally there was some changes that have been made, but from my perspective, shut the thing down for the summer and just stop and let's just get it right and decide whether we move forward with it next year or not. But doing these incremental changes, we're going to adjust the hours, we're going to adjust the dates, we're going to move some stuff around, move a meter here and there, change some signage. It's confusing for people. And, we fundamentally ran our customers away because they're so confused about what to do. Well, they don't need to be right now because you can come down and park for free, come take care of the businesses downtown and have some fun. So that's the key thing.
I want to unpack this whole thing with you here in just a couple of minutes. We've got to get to weather and news. But just one question. Did you notice I don't know. When I went downtown after the paid parking enforcement was suspended, when I went downtown, it was bustling. When I went downtown last weekend, it was busier than I've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you agree that?
I totally agree.
People
we went from a 40% loss in revenue to fundamentally about a break even for those first few days. We all compare our sales to last year, and we track the weather. That's the other fallacy. Everybody at the beginning was like, "Oh, the weather is rough weather, and that's probably having impact." No, it actually helps us.
Yeah.
So when we have bad weather, you're not at your lake house, you're not at the beach, you're not out trying to get some sun or working in your yard. And when the weather's cold, you're looking for something to do. And so you come downtown and you go to the Buck and have a beer and an app. You walk over to the stores and shop, and you're always some kind of an activity. So. The weather wasn't the issue. The issue is parking. And once it was turned back off, we immediately saw a major change in the downtown.
There have been a lot of meetings between the city and business owners and other stakeholders, and we'll unpack that with Ken Kosminski from the Buck here in just a moment. You got time, a few minutes to hang out?
Sure.
All right. It's 7:08. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Quick check on the weather. Heat advisory in effect once again today from noon until 8 p.m. Is that good for business? Heat advisory?
Yeah. Same thing. People
don't want the outdoors.
We like that. Feed them more pretzels, right?
We'll
Get
make sure
thirsty.
that all our servers and bartenders are ready inside, which is cool.
Today's forecast, partly cloudy, hot and humid, a 40% chance of showers and storms, a high around 88. Tonight's forecast, mostly cloudy, another chance of showers, low around 67. I don't think we'll get a repeat of the thunder we had last night. That was amazing. Thunder and lightning.
Yeah, that was fun.
Saturday's forecast, partly sunny, 20% chance of rain, a high around 84. And then Sunday, back to hot and humid, low around 67 overnight, and the high will be around 90. A couple of news stories. I just want to get to these quickly. This one, Area Economic Development Group, Cornerstone Alliance, making a pitch for a new tax assessment that it says could be used to attract more customers to businesses in Benton Harbor. Speaking to the Planning and Economic Development Committee this week, Cornerstone Vice President of Community Development and Growth, Andrew Hahn, said business improvement zones are allowed under a 1961 state law. A business improvement zone, or BIZ, is an area in which a special assessment is used to pay for things like beautification of the area or infrastructure maintenance.
They can maintain and operate park areas and planting areas. They can maintain or reconstruct sidewalks, street curbs, medians, fountains, lighting, furniture, promote events and recreational activities. They can engage in economic development activities.
Property owners within the proposed zone would vote on whether they wish to create it. Hahn says they believe many business owners in downtown Benton Harbor would go for the idea, and that's after some early discussions.
Last year, we had been reached out to by some property owners in downtown concerned with some of the conditions with the public space maintenance and other things that just weren't at the level that really is demanded for a great, busy business district.
Hahn said things like weed control, graffiti cleanup, and street landscaping have been requested by businesses. However, the city can't currently afford to manage those things itself. He suggested a biz be created roughly in the area of the Arts District and extending over to Harbor Shores. Hahn said the idea is only in the early stages and a steering committee would be recommended to further explore it. The committee asked him to come back for another presentation at its next meeting. One of the things I go downtown in Benton Harbor Arts District specifically, you know, you go to the livery or you go to the records shop or you go to the Water Street Glass, that kind of stuff. You see the little the areas around the trees, and they're just overgrown with weeds in some areas. And some of that stuff, a lot of that, the little triangle park there, volunteers been taking care of that for a long time. The city doesn't take care of that.
Volunteers.
And
they mow it too.
And
water it.
And water it. And you think about the money that was supposed to go, that extra tax that was supposed to go to the sidewalks and the streets and the alleys, and the city's now been borrowing it to make good for their general fund.
I don't know about borrowing.
Well, you're right. You're right. They've been taking it without leaving an IOU.
Right. They're
you
not
are
like
correct
the guys
on that.
in Dumb and Dumber when they opened it up with $1 million IOUs in there.
Who's this belong to, Mr. Samsonite? All right. All right. Let's.
But you know, those are big. You know, and those are big things that matter. I mean, Ken, obviously, you're a big business person.
Yep.
Those little things matter in being able to attract people to come to places.
No, I mean, when you start talking about Benton Harbor, I'm really passionate about that because I was so involved with Cornerstone for all those years through the whole Harbor Shores development and in, you know, that reinvigorating it in that community. And so it's sad to see the progress stop, but hopefully we can get somebody on board to keep it moving forward.
As long as people are looking at it and identifying the problems and identifying potential solutions, it seems like a good thing.
Now, I will say those roundabouts in Benton Harbor, that is not the city.
I like roundabouts.
I do too, but I'm talking about them not being mowed at all.
Oh, okay.
That's MDOT.
Oh, really? MDOT needs to do more maintenance on those?
That's Business Loop 94.
Did not know that. Why aren't they mowing them?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll ask.
That is not the city of Benton Harbor.
Okay. One more news story, then we'll get back to our special guest. Slow down. That's the message from the Michigan State Police as they join with local and county police for a statewide crackdown on speeding drivers during the month of July. State police say they recorded more than 21,000 speed-involved crashes in 2023. That's a 20% decrease from the previous year, so that's good news. But still, people are speeding. Officials say data indicates speed enforcement and public education efforts are working. They're yielding some positive results. There's still more work to be done. So for the full month of July, State Patrol says they're going to be out there working speed traps, getting folks to slow down. So maybe
if
slow
they
down
could
before they
do that in the work zones, I sure would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Save a life. Slow down.
Yeah, which we know to do well in Van Buren.
7:13. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We're talking with Ken Kosminski from the Buck. There have been a lot of meetings about paid parking enforcement in downtown St. Joseph, and we want to find out what's been happening in those meetings. We're going to ask him right now on the video live stream here on WSJM. Here on the radio, you're going to hear from Dave Wolf with sports. If you want to get on the video live stream, it's easy to do. Either download the WSJM app and click on the live video stream that's right there, or you can just go to YouTube or Facebook.
Dietrich ends.
Okay, back on the video live stream. And again, thanks for bringing the shirt in. I like it. Taking a pause. Brett asked, are you going to see those?
I probably should.
You probably
should, yeah.
Probably could make a little bit of money.
That'd be good.
So how many of these? Let's start with the premise of, is everyone friends on this
on the parking
issue?
I mean, as many heated discussions that we've had back and forth, I think we're all very much friends.
We're all still good friends.
I just had a long conversation again with Emily Heckworth last night, the city manager, and Michael Fernandez was there and others. And so I think for sure. And I mean, this has never been a mob of people trying to, to push a point through. And that never works anyway.
Right.
So the key is but from a practicality standpoint, when you're down 38% in revenue across 23 out of the 28 businesses, and people's livelihoods are being impacted because of the change that was made, you're going to step up and say something about that, or do something about that. And so fortunately, because of the, an opportunity to get it stopped, we have an opportunity now to figure it out. And I think, for the city even to consider putting this thing back in place this year, the first step, if you've got to have the businesses behind you. They need to be able to stand up in a commission meeting room and have, the majority of the businesses that support this plan in downtown, and the community and the residents that live downtown as well, that were, everybody's on board with it. And I think the first go around on this thing didn't go very well.
Right. Right. Right.
And
why didn't it go well?
It's because they didn't have the stakeholder buy-in. So there was a lot of conversation about, well, we met with 80 businesses, but I can't find, other than Matt from G&M Variety, who I love, by the way, and Kelly Wilson from Perennial Accents. I really don't know any other people that really got involved early on to understand how the plan was going to get laid out, and some of the changes that they recommended weren't made. And so even if you look at the consulting agreement that they had put together, Walker Consultants had put recommendations, and those recommendations weren't followed. The master plan calls for running a test pilot instead of just buying the whole thing and putting it all in place. Do a test lot or two and see how it goes and make adjustments. So, the whole thing was executed very poorly from the beginning, and I'm sure that the city will agree with that, and I know that the city manager will as well. But the key now is you really can't look back. Okay, so where do we go from here? Are we going to?
If you look back, you should learn from your mistakes. So that's why I think we're still interested in understanding why was this, the rollout, I think everyone agrees, was not good. And now it's probably very important to understand why wasn't it good, and to go back and make sure that we don't do that again.
Right.
And to your point, which stakeholders will you be addressing? Which stakeholders will be measured to find out, okay, this is the plan that we should go forward with, and which shouldn't we?
Right.
So do you have confidence that they're looking back at the right places to make sure they don't make those errors again?
I think they are. I think there's been a lot of meetings that have been held with some of the community stakeholders and some of the business stakeholders. It's not been a joint meeting, if you will. So there's a lot of one-on-one behind the scenes, which I think is probably less pretentious, maybe easier to, if I'm going to meet you one-on-one, you're probably going to be
more honest.
Would be more honest, a calmer discussion.
Yeah.
So I think that they are doing that. I think that they're, the key though, I think, is that, we rushed into it from the very get-go. It wasn't a well thought out plan, certainly from a federal government standpoint. ADA compliance is
right.
A basic part,
which by the way, ADA has been in place for a few decades now.
Yeah,
which you have to follow,
of course. And if we didn't follow it, I can trust you that the city would be standing on my doorstep. I literally, had to change out a handle on a toilet from the left side to the right side in the State Street Meats building.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Wow.
In order to be able to be compliant with ADA.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Thanks for joining us on the video live stream. Carol Meister says,
that's my
hi.
mother-in-law.
That's your mother-in-law. She says, I'm his mother-in-law.
Yep.
Be right back. It's WSJM Morning Show.
88. Feel like temperatures will be 95 to 100. We also continue with a few scattered showers and thunderstorms off and on through the day today and into tonight. We drop down to 67 tonight. For tomorrow, partly sunny. There's just a slight chance of a shower tomorrow. High temperature Saturday afternoon at 84. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Pooh.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:19, it's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. I'm Ken Lundberg, here with me, Brett Witkowski, and special guest in the studio this morning is Ken Kosminski. Two Kens in the studio. We can't go wrong.
Oh, boy.
Right?
That means that it's Knuff.
We are Knuff. Yes. Thank you. We're talking a little bit about, Ken's our special guest this morning because I rang him up yesterday and I said, hey, Ken, we're hearing a lot of the meetings are happening, talking about the paid parking enforcement pause or suspension or whatever it is. Can you kind of enlighten us on what it is that's going on? What is it that you can share with us? What's happening in those meetings between the city officials and the stakeholders to talk about how do we go forward with paid parking enforcement if we go forward?
Yep.
We had City Commissioner Michael Sorolla in earlier this week. He threw the word "if" out a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So will it even return. So what's happening?
And that is the big question. So, I mean, and again, I'm going to state it really clear. If you talk to the key, so some of the key businesses that I've been working with closely is obviously Rybel's. The one thing I'm going to tell you, the benefit of all this is we've all become really good friends now.
That's nice,
because we have like a common ground now of an issue that we need to really address, because we're all impacted almost equally across the board, with what's going on, and it's had a major impact on our livelihood. But in those meetings, we've been trying to stay organized and stay professional, to look at not just our approach has always been, well, parking is probably here to stay. And we've always looked at it as, we don't necessarily want it, but we think that it's highly likely that it's going to be around in our future. And so our approach has always been, let's figure out how to make this work right. And so it works both for the community and for the government that is looking to get some funding, from a source. And so I understand the budget shortfalls. If Mike was here, he probably talked about that as well.
He did.
He's very passionate about the big projects
But
coming
it was
up.
never rolled out as a way. This is a revenue source. That was never rolled out as the primary objective of the paid parking. The paid parking was, this is to turn over traffic to create more foot traffic for the businesses.
And that's what's not happened. So when you look at some of the things that are, some of the changes that are being suggested, for example, I mean, if we have beachgoers that park up on the bluff, and yes, they're going to do that. But even when the program was put in place, you could still go park in the lot behind the Bach by the Cures Kids Museum, pay $6.30 to go down to the beach for 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go down there and pay $15 for a day pass if you're out of Bryan County. So it's still a distance, and there's less, and the spaces are all wide open because there's no one downtown.
Yeah.
So it encourages me more to park.
It encourages you even more. And so, when we start talking about some of the changes, some of those lots don't need to be all day lots. We need to have a mix of all day lots and 3 hour lots, but maybe we don't need all those all day parking lots, and that discourages it. Certainly having 3 hours on the bluff helps with the people parking up there and walking down. So we think that there's some really good opportunities for the city to get revenue. We talked about, season passes being sold even at Christmas time. You could buy a couple for me for Christmas, by the way, if you're looking for a gift.
As long as a t-shirt comes with it.
So, there are some ideas out there that I think that can generate the revenue and reach the goals that the city's looking for. But if we go right now and just rush in and try to throw this thing back in place, our summer really ends August 15th. That's when when our summer ends. And then we have Labor Day weekend pretty much. And then now we're back into where are our locals. We need everybody back. And we've run them all out of town right now. So we've got to get them back and have some fun in downtown St. Joe.
Yeah.
For me, living in the city, I never got a clear direction. Was this to improve downtown or to offset revenues? So I think that was part of it. And if it was to improve downtown, what were the plans? Because I never saw any of those.
Mm-hmm.
You as a business owner, and my wife's a small business owner, you don't have time to deal with these things. You're trying to keep your business going.
For sure.
And then I think the one thing that is lost in government at a lot of levels is who really works for who. And government works for the public, as in your case of business owners, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. And
I think St. Joe lost sight of the fact that St. Joe downtown is supported tremendously by a lot of local people.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you do get the busy times of the year, like you said. And I've seen people who are not politically active at all get very passionate about this because they want to shop downtown, but they're handicapped or have, disability, and they'd have to park and then walk a half a block to use the kiosk. And everything, the layout, the rollout could not have been any worse in my opinion.
Yeah, and those kiosks are really difficult to use for people, especially the older generation like me.
I'm the same
I'm going to
way.
be 60 years old next week.
Have you tried using one?
Ken puts apps on my phone because I don't use them.
yeah, for sure. The piece that anchors that what you just said though is when part of it for me has been getting some of the community stakeholders involved, because I've got the business voice already. So I need residents, people that live in the city. So I started reaching out a couple of weeks ago when we got the pause/suspension. Started reaching out to people, and then found some community stakeholders, but they had no idea that things were that bad for business, number one. And number two, I heard the comment over and over again. Well, I just expect that our city and our commissioners and our city government and our officials are doing the right thing or making the right decisions that are going to be best for the overall
The
community.
trust, yeah.
And that's where I think we're missing the boat in terms of, the direction of this thing. And for me, that it's really stood out strong.
Yeah, if you listen to some of the testimony and the comments from the city officials and those who are arguing against the paid parking enforcement plan as it was rolled out, you hear from city officials, we held public hearings, we talked about the plan publicly, nobody showed up. Nobody showed up at our hearings. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, for example, the majority of us that we've talked with within our business group never even had notifications that we were supposed to attend a meeting.
Yeah.
A couple of them were done by happenstance. Like, as I mentioned earlier, Kelly Wilson from Perennial Accents and Matt, they ended up at St. Joe today at a meeting is how they ended up kind of getting involved with, the parking side of it. But, I think it's when you're rolling out something as strategic, as large as this, you go find those stakeholders. You actively say, okay, people aren't showing up. Let's make sure we get the right people in the room. And then if you're going to be, an official that's pushing through a major change like this, have all your businesses and all your community stakeholders standing behind you saying, yes, we agree. This is the right thing to do. And, even with the $55 million wonderful development coming up, it needs to happen that way as well. And like I mentioned earlier, it's too bad that there's now this black parking cloud because everybody's going to be more nervous about this development.
You're right.
Because we've already stung them one time, and now now they're watching out. Watch out what they're going to do here. What's going to happen with this? And so I think to the point that we can get everybody to rally behind these projects that are going to only benefit the community, then great. But when you put in a parking program and you kind of shove it down everybody's throat and expect that they're going to play nice and it's going to be okay, and then don't make it 88 compliant on top of it,
right?
Yeah. And to me, those are things as leadership. You have to go door to door. It's like a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
You have to ask for the vote,
which isn't hard. You can walk downtown and
be
walk 3 blocks in a morning.
Even I can walk it.
Exactly.
What do you think the chances are that the pause will be lifted this summer? Do you think they'll re-engage the paid parking enforcement this summer?
I think that's a really good question. I'm nervous about it. I think that if we didn't have a lot of these meetings going on right now, I think that the plan would have been to fix the ADA compliance and put it back in place. Maybe make some more minor changes to the hours or whatever. I think it's a big mistake. I think that we've got to bring our people back. And but I think that there is thought process within the city that they want to implement it before the end of summer again. And as I mentioned, before the end of summer is August 15th. We're July next week. So we're for 5-6 weeks of summer, we're going to try to get this thing back up and running. It's not going to happen in the next couple of weeks anyway.
So it's August 15th because a lot of kids start their sports back up. And Chicago, and they're back in Illinois,
Indiana goes back to school. Right. You have July, I think August 11th starts the Berrien County Youth Fair. So everybody goes to the youth fair. And so we see a significant drop off. There's plenty of parking available after August 11th.
Okay.
In the college, you think about, my daughter just graduated from Michigan State. She used to go back to school. She started with her sorority, usually around the 10th or 11th. And then they were back in August 15th back then.
So families are getting their fall on by then.
So you're down to crunch time.
Exactly.
To make money.
So the real answer is the businesses do not want this thing turned back on this summer. Okay. The city may be making that decision that they're going to do it, but I think that if that's the case, then they're not going to have the support of the businesses, at least the major businesses size-wise within the community.
As we heard earlier this week, City Commissioner Michael Cirola reintroduced that resolution so that the City Commission had to officially turn it off.
Yeah.
And that meant that now it's up to the City Commission to turn it on. Is that a good thing?
That is a good thing. And so, I mean, when they did pause it, Emily read a statement and I'm not going to lie. Some of us, including myself, were extremely upset about it. Because
what were you upset about?
It was because it was voted in by the commission originally. Okay. So the commission approved to put the parking in place, but the commission didn't approve to suspend it. And so which I don't understand why something like that shouldn't happen.
Okay.
That's why we have the commissioners. That's what we have a commission for. Those are, to be able to have a vote and be able to have a say in it. So when I met with Emily the next morning, her and I went for a walk around town. I told her, wear your tennis shoes. We're going to go for a walk Tuesday morning after the commission meeting. And I have a great relationship with Emily, by the way.
Yeah.
But we had that conversation. I said, you could have woke up this morning with a cup of coffee in your hand and decided that you wanted to turn it back on. And it can go back on until we got a vote from the commissioners to make a motion to pause it, suspend it, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Then it was now it's in a spot where it has to be approved by the commission to be able to put back in place.
Where do you think the commissioners are on this question?
I the only ones that I really communicate or have reached out to me much have been the Mikes, I guess.
Michael Fernandez and Michael Sorolla.
Yep. And certainly, the majority of my conversation's been with Emily, and we communicate on a regular basis about this since the whole thing went into place. But I think that they know that if they try to put this thing back in place and that they don't have stakeholder support behind it, it's going to be another bigger negative than it was the first time.
Yeah. Okay. We're talking with Ken Kosminski. Hold that thought, Brett.
Sure.
We'll be right back on the video live stream. We'll continue this conversation. We've got to get a quick update from our financial market friends at Bloomberg. We'll get the latest world and national news from ABC. We've got a couple other things to get to as well. It is the WSJM Morning Show. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Still on the video live stream. Sorry, Brett. Go. And Ken, I want to ask you a little bit about there's a re-election going on for city commission, or an election going on for city commission seats. So I'm putting my placeholder there. Don't ask about that.
Okay. Do you know what the net loss now is to the city? Have they said finding? I mean, this is turning into a net loss.
Yeah,
I mean, what was supposed to be a money is there's no way they're making money.
No, there's no way they're making
because
money.
now they got, is it Whiteman in town or Abbott Marsh?
Abbott Marsh is doing the ADA stuff.
Stuff right now. And kudos to Abbott Marsh, but if I was a local company and I was dealing with an ADA issue with the city, I probably would say, maybe go find somebody else.
Have they talked a little bit, and this is really a question for the city, but since you're here, I'll ask you, Ken, and you've been in the meetings with the city officials, have they talked at all about how the ADA thing got by them? Because, ADA has been in place for a couple of decades.
At least.
Yeah. Was it 1990 something?
No. Yeah, at least.
No, they haven't said. But clearly nobody even looked at it.
Because you have the vendors who are installing the stuff. This isn't their first rodeo.
Right.
This is our first rodeo, but it's not the first rodeo as far as ADA. What kind of boxes you need to check for this? How did that get by?
I know. And, I have no idea how it literally they even rebuilt some of the sidewalks downtown.
Correct.
So they tore out the curbage and put in new sidewalks and pads to mount these devices on that aren't ADA compliant. So they tore them out, spend the money to redo it, and then put them in without it being ADA compliant. It's a total waste of taxpayers' dollars to begin with.
Wow.
And so from what I understand, there was one company there's a consulting company, then there's a company that the kiosks were bought from, then there was an installation company, and then there's the public works department.
Yeah.
For me, it's really on all of their backs, but certainly public works shouldn't be putting things in place without the ordinance department.
Well, and who does public works report to?
I guess the
city manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a city engineer as well, so when you look at you got an ordinance department, you got a city engineer, you got an attorney that works on staff. As small businesses, we don't have that, and we still have to require ADA compliance. Anything that we do,
Ken has to get a new rail in his house.
Yeah, so he's probably.
I do. I got a letter from the city this year. Stephanie and I did that says sorry, and I don't know.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I'll put a rail up.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so I think the other thing too is that there's a certain cross section of people that are really struggling, but they're also afraid to step up and have a voice in this too.
Why?
Because if there's going to be any kind of ramifications coming back from anything with the city, the city officials, if they don't like us, can make our lives miserable. If they want, they can find things that, whether, for me, it's the tables on the sidewalk, or I have too many chairs out front, or those types of things. And that happens. But the way I look at it, I don't have I'm 60 years old. I don't have time to mess around with this, and spend my energy. But I want to make sure that we have a voice for the people that don't feel comfortable stepping up and talking about the significant damage that this thing has done to us.
Would you support? Sorry, Brett. One more question.
you're fine.
Would you support any sort of paid parking enforcement in downtown?
I would, if it was set up right. Yes. And I think if you look across the board at all the businesses, we've never said from the beginning that that we don't think paid parking is a solution, because I think there is a solution there, but it's got to be set up right and done right. The other thing that I want to make really clear, because I hear this a lot from people, I tell my employees, I do not want you parking by the building. I want you walking to work. Walk your 2 blocks. In fact, a lot of them need the exercise, by the way.
Oh,
You know,
man.
he looked at
They're going to be mad at you today.
you know what? He looked at me when he said that.
But we
He's looking
don't-
at both of us, Brad.
We don't want our employees parking by our buildings. We want customers parking nearby.
That makes sense.
And that's where we will get the turnover. So there's going to be some solutions that will come out of this that will be a win-win for everybody involved, I think. But we got to take our time and spend the time now. Did it wrong. Shame on us for putting this thing in place the way we did. Let's take a pause.
Yeah.
With our t-shirts, and then come up with a good strategy and move it forward. And I think that there's opportunity to do that.
One moment. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:36. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg, and with me is Brett Witkowski, and special guest Ken Kosminski is in the studio. We'll continue our conversation with him in just a moment. The temperature outside on your Friday, 27th day of June, is 75 degrees in Benton Harbor, 75 in St. Joseph, 75 in South Haven. Beautiful all over the place, and it's going to be another hot.
Gorgeous outside.
It does look gorgeous. We do have a heat advisory in effect once again from noon until 8 p.m. for Southwest Michigan. Heat index values expected to be around 95 to 100 degrees this afternoon. What does that mean? It means don't overexert yourself.
Means you go to the Buck
Get some water
and a beer.
Get a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
How many beers do you have there?
We have 74 on draft.
Wow.
74 on draft.
Yeah. We actually were the largest in the state of Michigan for about the first 2 years we were open. We've been open for 13 years, but there was a place in Grand Rapids that went up to 120, but I call it crap on tap because they got a lot of crap. They put every variety of Miller type.
Oh, yeah.
We only
Miller Zero, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we
Miller
only
Zero.
run like 1 or 2 domestic beers, and the rest are. I mean, it's the best of the best. So whatever the brewers, their best beers are the ones that we put on.
How many you have on draft?
74.
74. Why not
Mhm.
75?
Because of the way the configuration of the beers.
but so anyone who's ever worked in a restaurant or had to change whatever the beer things are or the soda pop or whatever, you've got little tubes going from each of those canisters to the draft. Is it just, where is that thing? Where is that monster? Is it a beast? Do you have it nicely organized?
Yeah, they're in 2 places. In our basement and our cooler, we have lines that run down there, and then we also have them inside of the barbacks themselves.
Is it all nice and neat?
No, it starts out the summer nice and neat, and then as we get later on,
And then it
gets
goes
a little bit crazy.
All
But
right.
we go through and have to strip all those off and clean them and run fluids through them and, and all that.
There's a
obviously.
lot.
So we have to keep everything fresh. So
We're going to continue our conversation. We're talking with Ken Kosminski. He's dropped by today just to talk a little bit about some of the parking efforts, what's been happening since the pause was put in place. He's worn a special T-shirt today that he had custom made. You show it again? It just says on it, "I'm taking a pause."
you want one, don't you?
I want one.
And Brett wants
2X.
one.
2X.
He wants the 2XL. All right, 7:39 WSJM Morning Show. Back with more in just a moment. We'll continue our conversation on the video live stream. Brett, you were going to ask.
Yeah, and I forgot.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay. We only have a few seconds to until we get back on the radio here. So, in fact, why don't we do this? I'm just creating. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, the comment you brought up about businesses being worried. I mean, I know quite a few people down there, and they're like,
Make sure you're on the microphone, Brett.
Don't say who I am, but they all were down 30-40%.
For sure.
But they didn't. They were kind of afraid of ramifications if they were looked upon as a complainer.
Yep. So
that wasn't a question. That was a statement.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Well,
But it backed up what he said.
and you know, again, I'm not trying to be a complainer at all. I'm just trying to do what's right for the community. And
Well,
you
you're
know,
fighting for your business,
I
too.
love the community. I think we've got a great community. And if we're, I mean, you think about the strategy behind this, and I, you know, I went to Northwestern and got a degree in strategic planning, master's degree from Northwestern. But what's going to be the long term if your businesses are failing and their revenues are down and they're going to have less inventory that they're going to carry? You know, Kelly's trying to buy stuff right now at Perennial Accents for Christmas, so she's got a plan. She doesn't, is this thing going to be around? Is it not going to be around? Are my customers coming back? And it's a downward death spiral is what it is. So your property values start to decline, your business value starts to decline, you're paying less in property taxes to the city overall. Businesses are going to close. We're going to have less amenities that people are going to want to come for. So then second home buyers and people that live here are going to be moving to other locations, to more desirable cities that, I mean, and then the property values are going to go down further. It impacts everybody. I mean, as silly as this sounds, these little kiosk things that are now paused, I have this potential
With garbage
to
bags.
create this. Well, they took the garbage bags off now, so there's signs. But the reality is that the long term impact of that is devastating. And you know, and for what? So that we can get $500,000 in revenue a year, maybe out of it.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. And so again, there is a model that works. And maybe it's, you know, it's a scaled back model of what we have, or maybe it's a more balanced model than what we have. But let's take the time to figure it out.
We are not the first tourist town in the nation to try a paid parking enforcement thing.
No.
Right? It's worked in other places. Did they look at those?
And you know what's interesting about this is that the way this was all implemented, back to the ADA comment, if you do on your computer, look it up, Kalamazoo, look up ADA compliant kiosks in Kalamazoo, Michigan. In September of last year, from the same vendor, they had a ADA compliance issue and they had to shut it all down.
The same vendor.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look at that. Kalamazoo Mall parking kiosks return after month-long violation of the ADA.
They had
Wait a
pause.
second.
So we don't even have the time to look at that kind of stuff. So when you talk about, you know, us doing our job, doing our due diligence to try to get this thing right, we didn't even learn from the Kalamazoo mistake. And that was what, September, I think, of last year?
Looking at it, yeah, November is when they put the parking meters back up. So it took them a month or two to, okay.
Yeah. So,
and then they have a 2-week grace period before the parking meter enforcement begins back in November.
Yeah, we could have just asked AI.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So that, I mean, that brings up a real serious point. Should somebody be held accountable for this?
I think so. I mean, if I was a business, you know, and I ran a publicly traded company for, you know, over 15 years at IPC back in the day, and you know, I had to report out every quarter to the, you know, board of directors and to the public that were under stock. And if I let something go through that caused this much damage to the community, took out $1.5 million, $2 million of revenue from our businesses, created a black cloud over a potential $55 million project coming down the pike for us, and you know, did the damage to the businesses that has been done, I would in the expense to the city, and now to try to fix it on top of it. So what we're going to do, move these things around and redo curbage, or you know, all those things. Somebody should be accountable for them, for sure.
Who?
I don't know who that is. And so I would think
you don't want to say.
I think if we have an ordinance department, I think they should have been involved. I think if we have a city engineer, the city engineer should have been involved. I think if we have a public works department, they should have been involved. And we should have held the vendors and the consultants accountable.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's people all around here that need to be held accountable for the mistake.
Do you think this is going to be an issue in the this is a softball question. I'll just lob it over there. You think this is going to be an issue in the upcoming elections for a city commission this fall?
You know, unfortunately, even though I pay taxes and I have 2 buildings in St. Joe, I don't get a vote.
Oh, man.
Because I'm not a resident.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that people are already talking about it and looking at, you know, who are candidates. I think there's a couple spots that are opening up.
Yeah.
You know,
3 spots will be open. 1 person is retiring. 2 people are up for re-election.
Yep. So I think it is definitely going to be a major discussion topic. And I think now's the time for, you know, the community and the residents that can get involved to take a look at who we
How
have.
should people get involved?
Learn about the candidates and the open seats, and learn about what the skill sets are of the people that we're electing into office, you know. And I mean, clearly some of these people that are getting into office don't have a business background or business experience to look at things from a logical perspective. So I would think it would be really advantageous to, study what we're doing and make sure that we're not going like I said, when I talk to people in the community, they're like, well, I just take it for granted that they're doing the right thing and making the right decisions based on the community. And that's not always the case, as you know.
Yeah.
But as someone who's lived in the city for 30 years, and this, first impression is huge. When someone goes to your place, and the first impression of the parking has really created, as you said, a cloud. I hear more negatives about St. Joe this summer than I've heard my entire time living in the city. And it's not going to be easy to overcome. As more things are rolled out, there's going to be less trust that it's being done the right way.
So here's what we're doing, by the way.
Yeah.
We're proposing. We want to have some fun. I mean, can't we have fun in the city of St. Joe? I mean,
absolutely.
Why do we have to be? Why does it have to be?
About that?
I know, but if you think about it, so we got this black cloud and all this parking stuff that we're talking about. Let's we've been Jim Kramer from Shoes has been awesome. If you go down, in fact, we just unloaded one over at G&M Variety this weekend. Have you seen the pianos downtown?
No, I haven't.
They're awesome. They're awesome. If you go onto my the Buck Facebook page, you'll see links on there. And I with Lisa at the Soapworks, which is in my 416 building.
Hang on one second. Let's get right back to that. I want to hear about that. We've got to get back on the air and give the Moody on the Market update. We'll make it part of that. It's WSJM.
Partly sunny, muggy, and hot today. We're going to end up at 88. Feel like temperatures will be 95 to 100. We also continue with a few scattered showers and thunderstorms off and on through the day today and into tonight. We drop down to 67 tonight. For tomorrow, partly sunny. There's just a slight chance of a shower tomorrow. High temperature Saturday afternoon at 84. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Pooh.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:47. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. Brett Witkowski and I have tons of ideas for Ken Kosminski. Here's how you can do business. What should he do?
Brought us a hamburger.
The first thing when Brett first learned that you were coming in, he said, "Oh, is he bringing food?"
I was almost going to bring you a smoothie. So I make them at home.
What do you put in your smoothies?
I put bee pollen in there and spirulina and flaxseed and walnuts.
How much spirulina do you put in there?
Usually about a teaspoon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I bought spirulina for the first time, a whole big, I don't know what it is, but a packet of it, because I make my own kombucha at home.
Okay.
And I have
You make your what?
my own kombucha.
Mm-hmm.
It's sweet tea basically that gets fermented, and there's
that's
no
right, you
alcohol
explained
issue
that.
with it,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's super good. And so I had a spirulina kombucha, and I thought I can do this at home. So I bought the spirulina, and just because when it arrived, I took the little serving of it, and I put it in a pint glass, and I put in fizzy water with it, and I stirred it up, and I drank it, and I actually had to put it back out. I had to spit it out because there was no sweetness, no nothing.
Right.
It tasted like pure protein powder, which I think is what it is.
Yep, for sure.
Is that why you put it in there?
I do.
And it has an amazing color.
It's great. Yeah, it's a mess. It's really
it's
messy.
a complete mess, and it's a very fine powder.
So I actually go to Lisa, the soap lady, and
Okay.
I get honey from her. So I put a little honey in.
Oh, yeah.
So just local honey, but I also put bee pollen in as well.
Why
So,
do you use bee pollen?
again, for the immune system. It's
Okay.
really good to help your immune system.
love
It
that.
just has a ton of other health benefits as well.
I could
So-
eat honey all day long.
Mm.
I'll try that with the spirulina. Thanks for that.
So we got to talk about having fun, because then I got to
Oh,
get
wait.
going.
Okay,
here
so
in a
Moody on the
minute.
Market
So I know
update. The
you're
Moody
gonna-
on the Market update is brought to you by
Okay.
Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. Stop that, Brett. And
That
then
wasn't me this time.
and our special guest in studio this hour has been Ken Kosminski with the Buck. We've been talking about paid parking enforcement, but you want to have fun. You want to bring the silver lining to the cloud that's happening with that issue. Tell us.
Sure, absolutely. We've been talking a lot about, let's get Ted Nugent in town. Have him come hang out on the bluff.
Yeah.
That
Down
would
the
be
bluff
amazing.
Friday,
That would be
let's
cool.
just do a free concert. And
That'd be so cool.
I think we need to be able to step back from all this and say, let's have fun. So the pianos, if you haven't seen the pianos,
Yeah.
there's one at Lisa's Soapworks at the 416 building. We just put one on Saturday. Jim Kramer's been great. He's been driving around. I think the one at G&M Variety was that one was $6, but that one had a bench with it. So yeah, you can find pianos pretty much anywhere.
They just want them out.
They want them out. People
Yeah.
want to move them out of their houses, or
Like
out of their
real
garage.
pianos.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So there's one
I
that-
did see the piano. You're right. I did
Yeah.
see the piano.
And so
Is it there to play? Just anyone comes by and
there's some
play?
great videos. If you go on the Buck site, or you go on Shoes or Tim's Too, or
Yeah.
I've got some great video from this weekend at the Peanut song or whatever the gal was playing in front of G&M Variety, which was pretty awesome. That
That's-
one's actually tuned pretty good. The one in front of G&M.
That's great.
But it was expensive. It was $6. So, and I think Matt Bonifant owes Jim Kramer $6. So there's still a little controversy with that.
That's funny.
But no, we just put them out there for people, and it was Jim's idea just to have some, create some joy.
Yeah.
This it's supposed to be fun. I mean, we're all getting older. Let's not take this so seriously. Yeah, the parking thing isn't working, but let's
We'll work it out. It'll work
it
out.
But
Yeah.
in the meantime, let's get our customers back. Let's make St. Joe a fun place.
I love that. I
Good
love
idea, I
that.
think.
Ken Kosminski from the Buck. Thanks for coming down and sharing your thoughts with us. Will you keep us updated on the parking pause?
I will. Sounds
Okay.
good. Are we going to get a selfie with my shirt?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get a selfie with the shirt. So we're going to play a couple of messages. I'm going to get a selfie with Ken Kosminski here in just a moment. If you don't know what we're talking about with the shirt, just check it out on the video live stream. You'll see it. That's our Moody on the Market update for this hour. It's brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS. They are your local auto owners insurance dealer. They have offices in St. Joseph and Niles. Back with more in just a moment.
Insurance Management Service.
Okay, I'm going to leave the microphones up, but come over here. I don't know how much they can hear. Brett, get in here. All right, let's do this. Who's got the longest arms? Do that.
Well, you gotta flip the camera around.
Okay. There we go.
Smile.
I am smiling. Okay, that's good.
This counts
Okay.
down.
And this
You just say smile. And it counts.
Yeah, I like your camera.
Okay, and then here we go. Do this. 3 of us here. Good enough.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
Did they give you what you wanted? Hopefully. Okay.
No, that's perfect, Ken.
You're just being honest.
We appreciate you being here, and again, share with us any updates that you have,
I will.
and come by anytime. You're always
Thank
welcome.
you for having me. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Ken.
it.
Absolutely.
All right.
See you
Have a
later.
good day.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend. All right. Ken Kosminski, the proprietor of the Buck in downtown St. Joseph. He has a lot of investment in the area and in the question, and he's been very involved in a lot of the meetings with the city folks talking about that. That was good.
Well, and business owners like him are the backbone of downtown. You don't see a mega corporation down there. These are individuals, families who put everything they've got and hope they can get a paycheck.
Yeah, at the end of the day, and we heard testimony from several business owners who echoed what Ken Kosminski talked about, which is they've seen 30, 40, 50% drop in revenue.
Yep.
And some people, they said, I haven't taken a paycheck in May. I didn't take a paycheck in June. Probably won't take one in July. That's tough.
Well, and Ken, as he explained, the domino effect of businesses that, you lose sales, you close, you get more vacancies.
Right.
People don't.
There are a couple of vacancies already down there.
There are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the domino effect is real. We have plenty of examples around the state of that happening and downs. And when you have Walmart and Myers and other places, you got to have a downtown that people want to go to.
Yep.
Because it's more convenient to go other places.
Yeah. All right. Back in a moment. It's the WSJM Morning Show, 7:53.
And wear and keep tons of roofing debris out of the landfill.
And the best news? Go Nano is a fraction of the cost of replacement while adding years to the life of your roof.
Call us for a free roof evaluation and we'll explain the benefits of Go Nano for your roof. After all, you're trusting us to work on your biggest investment.
So at Lakefront Roofing, we treat your home like it's our home.
Go Nano, baby!
Legitimate license, Lakefront Roofing and Exteriors. Contractors you can count on.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
Always a great pleasure to have somebody into the studio like Ken Kosminski. That was great.
That
was a lot of fun.
Hardworking person has done a great job.
So thanks. Excuse me.
I'm
Thanks.
choked up.
Yeah, well, I don't have any bee pollen this morning. I need to get bee pollen. Always good to have local business owners in the studio this morning. And we had Ken Kosminski from the Buck. We talked about the paid parking enforcement. I know we've talked about it a bit, and we're going to keep talking about it from time to time because it is a very live and active and concerning issue in downtown. And so the stakeholders, both on the city side and on the business side, are trying to do the right thing. And so they're working together, they're meeting, they're talking a lot, and we'll see where it goes. I would be surprised if it's unpaused, if it goes back into effect this summer, especially when you think about the timeline of what's left of the summer. I know we just started summer, but if you think about the planning and the way Ken laid it out of, his business starts to drop off in early August, early to mid-August as far as the tourist season goes, right? Because parents are getting their kids back to college, they're getting ready for school, they're doing all those other things. You see that percentage drop off. That's real revenue. And if you have that additional piece of resistance, which is the paid parking enforcement, then it's a problem.
It'll be interesting what they see the next or decided what next city meetings in 2 weeks. July 7th.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the update because they and when they have those meetings, when they put the agenda out, you can be sure that we'll be taking a look at it and covering it in full. Okay, 7:56. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. Over here is Brett Witkowski filling in for Mike Weibel. We've got a fireball in the sky. That's not just the sun. There was a fireball spotted shooting through the sky in southeastern part of the United States as a meteor shower or something was reported in the area Thursday afternoon. Did you hear about this?
I did not.
A meteor shower, apparently, the National Weather Service confirmed remained visible for hours after the initial sightings, according to a spokesperson with the Forsyth County Emergency Management Agency in Georgia. They say there were no impacts or injuries reported, adding that the shower is being monitored. Yeah, where does a meteor shower come from that is actually now visible in the sky in southeastern part of the United States?
Really?
That we can't see. Henry County Emergency Management said occupants of a house there reported a rock flew through their house and through their ceiling shortly after the time of a reported meteor shower, just before 12:30 in the afternoon. Again, this is according to the National Weather Service office. This one was in Peachtree City, Georgia.
Was there any warning? Because we track things.
I just said no, there wasn't.
400 years.
Oh, here, hang on a sec. Why doesn't he hit the thing?
Weeble wobble.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, Henry County Emergency Management said occupants of a house there reported a rock fell through their ceiling. The National Weather Service said it was likely a piece of the object, which is called a meteor or space junk, fell and pierced the home's roof, then the ceiling before cracking the laminate floor and came to a stop. The National Weather Service office in Charleston said earlier that there were many reports of a fireball across the region just before noon. Not certain, but the satellite-based lightning detection system also showed a streak within a cloud-free sky zone area over the North Carolina-Virginia border between 11:51 and 11:56 a.m. Videos shared on social media showed the fireball go down in a wooded area in South Carolina. So again, small little pieces of something all of a sudden just came into the Earth's atmosphere, and they were large enough to cause little streaks of fire in the sky.
But not large enough to be detected and people warned about for,
No.
They can predict Halley's Comet coming back in 2057.
Well, that's math, Brad. That's math.
But they track these things.
But that's true.
That's
but they track the large objects. It's like here. Let me explain it. Let me explain it to you in Brett terms. You ready? Okay. There's a conveyor belt. There's a conveyor belt going by. There's hot dogs and there's hamburgers on the belt.
Yes. Okay. Now you got my attention. Okay. Now we'll talk. Now we'll listen to you.
Only the big ones going by are the ones you notice. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We've got more to talk about. I've got to get a couple of legal things in here. Let's do this.
We get sued that hour?
No. We have to do this one. Here, you ready?
From the Pat Moody Studios, this is WSJM-FM Benton Harbor, St. Joseph, a product of Midwest Family Marketing and Media. Proudly serving our community. The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
See, we had to get the legal ID there. got to get it in there somewhere around what we call the top of the hour, which is going to be 8 o'clock here in just a moment. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on a fun-filled Friday morning. It's the WSJM Morning Show. Again, a heat advisory is in effect once again from noon until 8 o'clock for the entire area. Heat index values 95 to 100 this afternoon. Today's forecast, we've got partly cloudy, hot, and humid conditions, a 40% chance of showers and storms, a high around 88. Tonight's forecast, mostly cloudy, a 30% chance of showers, a low around 67. West winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. And tomorrow's forecast, partly sunny, a 20% chance of rain, a high around 84.
From ABC News, I'm Wayne Cabot. The Constitution Revisited.